What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be discussing a build that I think is going to be absolutely bonkers in Season 19. Frankly, I'm going to be rocking it at launch. Now, why am I saying this? Well, I think this build is already S and quite honestly probably S plus tier within the game right now. And then Bungie is coming along and buffing multiple aspects of it within Season 19. It's just gonna be nutty. And so, let's get started. But just before we do, this is a $400 Gucci wallet, and it's trash compared to today's sponsor, Ridge, because this is my brand new Ridge wallet. So I got the Forged Ember, and you have over 30 designs to choose from to fit your perfect style. Guys, it can fit 12 cards. I've got the cash strap on the back. It actually comes with a money clip if you rather have that. And really, if you don't have a slim, low-profile wallet, what are you doing? Because you're walking around with a bulging mass of back issues that I don't know about you guys, but there's only room for one massive bulge in my pants. Not to mention the outside case is RFID blocking to protect your credit cards. There's a convenient thumb push to gain access to stuff. Oh, and Ridge makes an awesome key holder as well. I converted my wife's keychain from this to this. So save your sanity and get easy access to your keys without all that jangle. What are you, a toddler? You don't need the jangle. Now you get all of that with a lifetime warranty, and they're so confident in their products you get a 45-day money-back guarantee. So try it out. If you hate it, send it back. But you won't hate it. So guys, click the link in the description down below or use code KAKISHD and you get an additional 10% off. So definitely get on it, try out the Ridge products. Alright, now, the build in question belongs to the Shadebinder Warlock, and if you're familiar with this channel, you're probably also familiar with this build, because this is something that I've recommended multiple times. I've put it in multiple videos for how to deal with end game content. Like, you will have seen this exact build we're going to talk about in my Grandmaster guides. That is how good this thing is. The Shadebinder Warlock has always been one of the best subclasses in the entire game for crowd control, especially as the content gets higher level and harder, because a lot of the crowd control builds that rely on stuff like, you know, an incandescent SMG, well, that's great when you're actually doing enough damage to kill enemies with that stuff. But if you're doing a Grandmaster and it takes an entire magazine of your Callus mini tool to take down one enemy, and then the extra scorch damage just barely tickles nearby enemies, yeah, not quite good enough. But with Stasis, you can just freeze enemies solid. Even if you're not damaging them, the fact that they're not damaging you, you get that degree of safety is such an important role. So what is this build and what is getting buffed with it? Well, first off, there's a universal buff to the slow effect. As you can see, increased movement speed penalty while slowed by 10%. And this should apply to both PvP and PvE enemies. Now moving on to the build itself, we're rocking Healing Rift, Penumbral Blast, and then Cold Snap grenades. These are probably the best overall stasis grenades you can be using, and I couldn't believe this, but they're getting buffed as well. As you can see right here, Cold Snap's Seeker can now adjust its trajectory for 0.5 seconds after creation rather than immediately finding a target and traveling towards their last known position. Now, this is definitely a buff intended for PvP, allowing it to have better tracking and, again, as it says, like change directions half a second after you throw it to make it more consistent. But make no mistake, this build overall in this video is going to be kind of focused on PvE, and this is going to help you get those PvE freezes as well. Like, have you ever tried to freeze a captain? They just teleport to the side. Sometimes it misses. This is just going to increase the consistency substantially when using cold snaps. But that is nowhere near where the buffs end. So as we continue with the build, importantly, we are then rocking Glacial Harvest. This is a very important part of the build because it says freezing targets create stasis shards around frozen targets. Higher tier combatants create more shards. And this was one of my favorite aspects to use, especially on Stasis Warlock. You'll see the amount of synergies we have later in the build, but guys, I can't believe I'm saying this, it's getting buffed. So, as you can see right here, for Glacial Harvest, they reduced the cooldown on Stasis Shard creation per 6 shards from 15 seconds to 10 seconds. So, you are going to be spamming significantly more Stasis Shards. And yeah, as we get further into the build, you'll see why this matters so much. Now, the next aspect is going to be Bleak Watcher, probably the best overall stasis aspect for PvE for this subclass, letting you convert your grenades into stasis turrets that are absolutely insane. For fragments, Whisper of Conduction, so that shards track toward us, Whisper of Torment for more grenade energy, Whisper of Chains for that damage resistance, and then Whisper of Rhyme, where collecting stasis shards grants a small amount of overshield. And so now you have that increased production of shards from the buff. This means we're getting more consistent and bigger overshields. Like, that matters quite a bit. But let's move on to the rest of the build. The featured exotic is the incredibly powerful Osmiancy gloves, giving you 2, now buffed, Cold Snap grenades. We then have Well of Restoration for more ability energy, and then what brings this build together is Elemental Shards, turning those stasis shards that we're producing way more of into stasis elemental wells. Now, there is a cooldown once you collect one. The next one you collect will just count as a normal stasis, a shard. But remember, that's still going to give you melee energy and overshield thanks to our fragment. Moving on from there, we then are actually going to be using Elemental Charge. We are constantly getting stasis shards, like literally all the time, which means it's incredibly easy to become Charged with Light with this mod. And then we can now have a Charged with Light payoff, something like Protective Light to increase your damage resistance. Now, this was nerfed pretty significantly. It's still going to keep you alive, but you could go with something like Firepower to increase your grenade recharge, or even High Energy Fire, or whatever Charged with Light payoff you want. Now, moving on from there, of course, we have Font of Might. So again, we're constantly getting shards. Once every, 5-10 seconds, it's going to count as a stasis elemental well. Well, Font of Might is going to improve our stasis weapon damage for about 10 seconds, which basically means, yeah, we have 100% uptime with Font of Might, just because you really don't have to do anything. The difference of this build and other elemental well builds is you have to kind of jump through hoops to produce elemental wells. This, you just gotta play. You gotta throw your grenades, you gotta freeze guys. It is so easy to be spamming out shards. But of course, Font of Might means we want to use stasis weapons, and the main one is going to be the Aegir's Scepter. This thing is absolutely insane for freezing enemies, as you've been seeing in the background gameplay. It also has a catalyst you can get as well, which is super fun. Then, for our primary weapon, I have this Forgiveness on. Something with Demolitionist is what you want, so this has Demo plus Adrenaline Junkie. You could go with this Ogma with Demo and Wellspring for even more ability energy. And then for our heavy, you want a stasis weapon to get that damage boost. The Bump in the Night is fantastic with Field Prep and Vorpal Weapon. It's craftable. You could also go with another iconic stasis rocket launcher here, the Palmyra B, or you could even go with something like the Chain of Command, and this machine gun actually has the Adrenaline Junkie Demolitionist Wombo combo. And this weapon setup actually leads to the final buff we're talking about, which is to the fragment Whisper of Rending. So it now provides bonus damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets for all primary ammo weapons, rather than just kinetic primary ammo weapons. So it's not in the build right now because in the current weapon setup, if you're using the Aegir's Scepter, it wouldn't do any damage, right? Because you needed to have that stasis weapon be a primary, which means you missed out on the incredible power of the Aegir's Scepter. Don't forget, guys, also going into Season 19, Trace rifles have been buffed like 3 times now. Like, they're actually smacking pretty hard in PvE, and the Aegir Scepter is now capable of killing red bars in Grandmasters no problem. But again, if you were using it, you get no benefit from this. Now, I could put this on, and then my energy primary weapon is going to be doing significantly more damage against all those enemies I freeze, which, as you've seen from the background gameplay, is pretty much every enemy I encounter, to be honest. And so guys, I already loved this build, and the fact that Bungie is buffing multiple things about it to me is just insane. It was already top tier, I don't know where it can go from here, but definitely something to consider using next season, especially in higher level content, like, for example, the new dungeon that comes out only a few days after the season launches. And so guys, that is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.